Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we'll be doing a tier list of Alfred Hitchcock's films. So Alfred Hitchcock is one of my favourite directors. He's obviously a classic filmmaker who worked on a lot of big films from the 30s, or pretty much from the 20s right through to the 70s. So a lot of my favourite films are in here. I haven't seen all of his movies. As you can see, he's done quite a bit. I think I counted up the first 31 films on here I've seen, and everything from Topaz onwards I haven't seen yet. I am planning on watching a few more of his movies, but I've seen all of his big films. Pretty much everything he did throughout the 40s, 50s, 60s and 70s I've seen, as well as a few of his 30s films, but I haven't seen any of his silent films from the 20s, and a few from the 30s I haven't seen yet as well. But I do have Topaz, and I want to get around to seeing that, and The Paradigm Case, and Under Capricorn, and a few of those, even though haven't heard great things about them. But yeah, so I won't spend too much time on each film here just because there's so many. Like I said, the first 31 films here in this list I've seen, so I'll be ranking those ones on this tier list, and a lot of them I've only seen once and a while ago, so I won't remember too much about them, but we'll get started anyway. So starting off, we have Dial M for Murder. Probably one of his most well-known films, or one of his more well-known films. He has a lot of them that are quite well-known, but Dial M for Murder is a really good film. It's mostly set in one location, obviously about a murder, which most of his films revolve around. It is a good film. I enjoyed it more after rewatching it more recently. I'm going to put it in the A tier. I think originally I just thought it was okay, but after rewatching it I really appreciated it a lot more as a whole. And I think it was one of his earlier colour films as well, one of his first colour films. Next we have Foreign Correspondent from the 40s, and this is kind of like an early version of his North by Northwest film that he went on to do. To be honest, I actually prefer it over North by Northwest. I know most people don't agree with that, and most people haven't seen this film that have seen North by Northwest, but I really enjoyed the film. It was continuously fun and adventurous. It had a great soundtrack too, and it's another film I would put up high in the A tier, very close to being an S tier film. Next we have Frenzy, which is one of his later films from the 70s. A lot of people think this was like his good comeback film because he didn't really make a big film after, say, Psycho or The Birds, but Frenzy was a lot more popular than anything he did after that. But I don't know, it didn't really work for me too much. I wasn't a huge fan of it. It was just okay. I think for now I'd put it in the C tier, because it was okay, but it didn't, I don't know, it just didn't work for me as much as I guess it does for most people, but it was just okay. And I feel kind of the same way about this next film, I Confess. This is one he did in the 50s with Montgomery Clift, I believe. I remember watching it and being a little bit underwhelmed by it, kind of the same as with Frenzy, so I'll probably put that one in the C tier as well, but it was just okay. Next we have Lifeboat. This is one I haven't seen for a long time. I remember watching it though, and I remember not really liking it much. It was clever that they were able to make a film in the 40s that was set in one location, being a lifeboat out at sea. So a lot of Hitchcock's films do that, where they're just set in one location, whether it be a room or an apartment, or like this one, a lifeboat. So it was clever the way they did it, but for me it's never a film that I've wanted to watch again. So I'm going to put it in the D tier because it might just be that I have to watch it again, but yeah, for me it was just kind of average and forgettable. Although he did have a clever cameo in this film, because he usually has a cameo in most of his films, but the way they did it in this one was pretty clever and interesting. Next up we have Marnie from the 60s. So this is the second film he did with Tippi Hedren, I think. They worked on The Birds and then they did this film. I remember thinking it was good but not great or anything. It's probably a B tier film. Again, it's one I've only seen once and it was a few years ago, but I do remember enjoying it, thinking it was good. I think Sean Connery, yeah, he's in it as well, so that was cool to see. Mr. and Mrs. Smith next. This movie was just a fun little comedy that he made in the early 40s. This is one of the more recent ones I've seen. I remember liking it more than I thought I would, but it wasn't like anything amazing or anything. It was just kind of like a little insignificant comedy kind of film, but I did enjoy it enough. I think it's a B tier film, to be honest. I'll probably end up low in the B tier, but I did enjoy it a bit. Next we have North by Northwest. This is probably one of his 5 most famous films, and I really enjoyed this film. Again, after rewatching, this was one of the ones that I returned to and really enjoyed it more. And for me at the moment it's up in the A tier. I know most people might put this in the S tier. I'm going to put it in the A tier right below Foreign Correspondent, because as I said, they're kind of similar films, but I actually think I preferred Foreign Correspondent a little bit more. But North by Northwest is really good, and it kind of feels like an early James Bond kind of film, which is cool. Next we have Notorious. This is probably Alfred Hitchcock's most famous 40s film, and I really liked this movie as well. Again, this is one I've only seen once, and I really would like to watch it again because, yeah, it's another Cary Grant one. They worked together a few times. Same with Jimmy Stewart. They did a few movies together. I remember liking it a lot, whereas, where would I put it? I'm going to put it in the A tier. But at the bottom of the A tier, I think I have to watch it again before I would be able to put it any higher, but it's definitely deserving of an A tier film. Next up we have Psycho. So this is probably his most well-known film. It's the film that's always at the top of people's lists when they're ranking. And it was always my favourite film of his as well until I saw another one which moved this out of first place and into second place. So Psycho was actually my second favourite Hitchcock film. Came out in 1960 at the end of a kind of streak of fantastic movies that he did throughout the 50s. Like most of the stuff he did in the 50s was really good. And Psycho kind of attaches itself to that, being a 1960 film. So I kind of feel like the best years of his career were through the 50s and ended with this film in 1960. Because I'm not as huge a fan of The Birds, which came after this one that a lot of people like, but didn't really work too much for me. But Psycho is a great kind of thriller, psychological horror film. It's very famous for like the shower scene and things like that, and he returned to black and white for this film. And it's just got a great atmosphere and characters, and the way the lead character is killed off halfway through the film. It never, movies didn't really work that way prior to this, and then it was this kind of new thing that kind of just happened with this movie. I guess all those reasons kind of helped make it as famous as it is today, and it still holds up really well, like with most of his top films that I'll have in the S and A tier. But yeah, Psycho is an incredible film. And don't be afraid to check some of these out if you haven't seen them or you're afraid of watching older movies, because like some old films are just amazing still because they're so different from stuff that's coming out today. And I really like returning to films that were made, from the way back to the 30s and that through the 40s, 50s, 60s and that. And Psycho is just one of those great films from that era. Next we have Rebecca. This is a kind of ghost story thriller film that he made in 1940, one of his earlier films. I was expecting to like this movie a lot, but because it was kind of a gothic horror film, which I really like, but the movie as a whole was just okay in my opinion. I think it's probably another B tier film. I'll put it at the top of the B tier because I did like it, but it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be going in. Rope is another classic from the 40s. This is another one of those one location films where the film takes place entirely in like this apartment, and it's quite a clever and fun film, and it's the first movie that he made with Jimmy Stewart as well. That's definitely at the top of the A tier, I'm going to say. Yeah, I'll put that above Foreign Correspondent. It's a fun little film, like a murder mystery, and yeah, it's really clever and well done and entertaining. And I think it was his first colour film as well. So next we have Sabotage. This is an older one from the 30s, I think. I remember enjoying this film. I don't remember a lot about it besides the bus explosion scene with the kid, which was pretty intense, but the movie was good. I remember liking it, so I'll put it in the B tier. Same for Saboteur. I remember that one. It's another early 40s one. I do remember enjoying it while not remembering a whole lot about it, so I'll put that in the B tier as well. I thought it was good. Rear Window. This is another classic. So this is one of my top 3 favorite Hitchcock films as well. It's my 3rd favorite. So I'm going to put that up in the S tier because it's a fantastic movie. Another one that every time I return to, I'm just blown away by it. Jimmy Stewart's great here. It's another one that's pretty much all set in one location as well, in a apartment room, spying on the neighbors through the window. It's got a really cool atmosphere and a way of, even though it's shot from one location, you don't kind of feel like it's lacking anything. Like, it's really clever the way it's done is what I'm trying to say, and it's involving and entertaining, and by the end it's just quite suspenseful and a really great, fantastic S tier film. And just like, you can look at these films, came out way back in the 50s and stuff, and they were doing what movies are trying to do today, but in a much more successful way. And I feel like Rear Window and Psycho and those kind of films are just like films that people should be watching still. Shadow of a Doubt. So this is a classic 40s film that Hitchcock made, and I think he even said it's his favourite film personally that he's made. I do like the movie, but I don't love it. It's another B tier one. I'll put that up. I'll put that at the top of the B tier. It is a good film, but I don't love it or anything. Same with Spellbound. It's another good film, probably another B tier movie. Yeah, that was good. It had a really cool and interesting dream sequence that he did that is very different from anything he's done before. So just check out Spellbound for that dream sequence even. Stage Fright is one of the most recent ones I've watched of his. It came out in 1950 and it was good. I remember liking it. I didn't think it was great, but it was definitely a solid B tier again. So next up we have Vertigo from 1958, and this for me is the pinnacle Alfred Hitchcock movie. This is my favourite film of his. It's the one that pushed Psycho out of first place after I watched it. It's one of my top 10 favourite movies of all time. So not just my favourite Hitchcock film, but it's actually in my top 10 movies of all time. It came out back in 1958. It's a psychological thriller as well as an obsessive romance thriller. It kind of tinkers with like being a ghost story as well. It's super romantic and fun and thrilling, and it has a great soundtrack. The musical score is just incredible here. Jimmy Stewart gives a great performance as well as Kim Novak. And the movie looks great. It's super engaging and involving. The story is very interesting the whole way through. I can't say anything at all negative about Vertigo. As I said, it's like one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. So it's definitely at the top of this list, at the top of the S tier. It's a great movie. And if you haven't seen it yet, please watch it. Like, it's an old movie, but it's fantastic. Like, there's not 1 minute of this film that I would remove or change anything with. Like, it's perfect the whole way through. Sorry, I just need a drink. So next up we have a few, starting with Suspicion, which is another, like a lot of these films I've seen, like I said, I've seen once and I liked them but didn't love them. So Suspicion is another one like that I would throw in the B tier. Cary Grant again, and Joan Fontaine, who he worked with in Rebecca, and then the following year I think they made this one. But that was a good film. The 39 Steps is a classic movie from the 30s. It's one of his earlier films that he made, kind of like another spy espionage thriller. But it was really good. It's look, it's probably even an A tier film. I'm going to put it at the bottom of the A tier because I remember liking it a lot. Next we have Family Plot. So this is his final film. This is the movie that Alfred Hitchcock made just a few years before his death in 1976, and I'm pretty sure that he hadn't really had a hit, a real big hit anyway, since like The Birds and all that. And for me, I didn't really like any of the films he made after Psycho besides Family Plot. I actually thought it was a very fun little movie, kind of like a comedy thriller mystery. And it's actually, yeah, my favourite film he's made since Psycho. I don't think it's great, but I do enjoy it, and it's probably up at the top of the B tier, to be honest, to me. Like, I really enjoyed it a lot. So next we have The Birds. So this is one I've mentioned already. A lot of people love The Birds. It's a film that I've only seen once, and I will have to get around to seeing it again because I still don't think it's a great film at all. It's a classic. It's very well known, but it doesn't do much for me personally. But again, I might have to watch it again. So for me now, it's probably at the top of the C tier. I know a lot of people would put that way higher, but that's just where I'm going to put it until I watch it again. So next up we have a film that I think is super underrated that I didn't know much about before seeing, and that's The Lady Vanishes from 1938, I think. So it's probably my favourite of his 30s films, of his really early stuff that I've seen, and I'd really like to get this on Blu-ray one day. It was just a super engaging, fun little thriller on a train, and I liked a lot about it. It's very dated. I mean, 1938, a long time ago, but the film was great and I really loved it. For me, it's going to go up the top of the A tier. I think it was very good. Like, it's one of my favorite early films of his. Next we have The Man Who Knew Too Much. So this film Alfred Hitchcock made in the 30s, but then he remade it with Jimmy Stewart in the 50s. So the 30s one I thought was just okay. I didn't think there was anything amazing about it other than one scene I found really funny when the two characters are like in church trying to spy on someone or something, and they're singing, but they're just talking to each other while singing, and it was a pretty funny scene. I don't remember much else about that one, but look, it's probably only a C tier one for me, to be honest. However, the remake from 1956 was a lot better, and I really loved that film. So The Man Who Knew Too Much from 1956 was one of my more favourite of Hitchcock's films. So that's another one that I would put up in the A tier, up high, because I think it's a much better film than the original, and kind of in that peak period of mid-50s where Hitchcock was just pumping out these great films, and it's one of his better ones in my opinion. Strangers on a Train is another great film. So this is a bit underrated, I think. Like, not many people talk about this one. They talk about their favourite Hitchcock films, but I'm pretty sure this one is another S tier. Like, this is actually I'm going to say my fourth favourite Hitchcock film. So I'm going to put Strangers on a Train up in the S tier below Rear Window. It's a great film, like super suspenseful, a great mystery, focuses on these two opposite kind of characters. One's a real psycho. Just seeing how far they will go to stop each other or to encourage each other in what's happening, and with these murders and things. And it's a really fantastic movie. I have it on Blu-ray. It's just super fun, like all of Hitchcock's best films. I definitely would recommend that if you haven't seen it. Another one from the mid-50s is The Trouble with Harry, and this is kind of like a murder mystery but more of a comedy, and it's okay. Like, it's a fun little film. There's nothing amazing about it. I do remember enjoying it while I watched it, but yeah, it wasn't anything great, so I'm going to put it at the top of the C tier. It was good though. I enjoyed it for what it was. Next we have The Wrong Man. Another one from the 50s, but I didn't really enjoy this one. I think it starred Henry Fonda, and I think it's his only film to be based on a true story as well. It was okay. It wasn't anything amazing. I was a bit disappointed by it. I'm going to put it down at the bottom of the C tier. So I've only seen two more of these films. To Catch a Thief was a good 50s film that he did, again around 1955, I think. It was a fun little romantic thriller. I remember liking this one quite a bit. It's a B tier film, definitely. Probably up high-ish in the B tier, so I'll put it around there. And last, but well, probably one of the least, is Torn Curtain. This was one he did in the 60s. Sorry. And I don't remember much about this film. I remember not liking it much at all. Probably the worst of Hitchcock's films that I've seen. Not bad enough to be an F tier film, but it's definitely another D tier film with Lifeboat. Like I said, he didn't do too many great films again after Psycho, and Torn Curtain is a very forgettable, bland kind of movie. But that's all the films I'm pretty sure so far that I've seen of Hitchcock's. As I said, there's a few more I want to see. I'd like to see, The Paradigm Case and Under Capricorn, probably Topaz. I've got it as part of a Blu-ray collection, so I'll have to watch it eventually. But I just wanted to make this video now before I forget or anything like that, just with all these films that I've seen, because there's still a fair chunk that I have seen. That's my ranking of everything Alfred Hitchcock that I've seen so far, guys. So please let me know, if you've seen any of his films below, what ones you like, what ones you don't like. And definitely, if you haven't seen any of those films I've got in the S tier, definitely check them out. They are some of my favourite movies. And the whole A tier is fantastic as well. And the B tier is very enjoyable movies. So he's made a lot of great films. One of my favourite directors, easily like my favourite early director from that kind of period. But yeah, definitely someone worth checking out if you are into different kind of cinema or want to see something a bit different from what's out there these days. Definitely check some of his stuff out. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in my next video.